Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I thought I would go a little further into this BMI discussion with actual charts, relevant information, and I took my height. I'm 5'9". I am the average height of the average American male at 5'9". I'm right there in the middle. Obviously that's taller than the average around the world because America is slightly taller than average, not the tallest in the world, but that's average height. So when we look at this and we talk about BMI, I want to make it very, very, very clear. Lean guys do not have obese BMIs unless they are on steroids. And so when we have this discussion, and I kind of made this entire talk the other day, about this regarding, BMI, right? I made this whole conversation about it. And I pointed this out that again, we can get away with being overweight if we're really, really serious lifters, but we need to be lean. We need to avoid the obese category. So what I've done here, I put the chart up for you guys. This is showing for 5'9". The red is the different categories. And what we can see clearly displayed here, the overweight is anywhere between 169 and 196 pounds. This is why I've said I need to be under 200 pounds moving forward. Okay, that's our weight range. And before people say, oh, that's too small, but start thinking in terms of lean. What do we mean by lean? Six pack. If you have a full visible six pack, not the outline, but full abs, you can see them from a distance. You look at that guy and say, I can see all six abs clearly from 10 yards away when they're shirtless. No love handle, none of that. So 10% is usually a pretty good six pack. So where does that put you? That puts you up to, so around 10% body fat. So people say, well, how big is that? So start looking at the overweight category. What I want to have is exhibit number 1 for you guys to look at is going to be a fat-free mass index calculator chart. So why is this relevant? Look at the numbers, 5'9", 190, 10% body fat. The fat-free mass index is like 25.3. See that little chart at the bottom? Where did that come from? Because there was a big study done a number of years back where they measured body fat, and they took a bunch of samples of like 20 natural bodybuilding champions, like world level. They had national level competitors, and then they compared them with known open steroid users at a gym who admitted to steroids. And what they found is that almost all of the national level natural competitors had a fat-free mass index of 24 to 25. So all these national ranked professional drug-tested bodybuilders, keep in mind drug-tested natural doesn't always mean they're not on anything. It means they can pass a drug test. Okay? None of them had over a 25. We understand that when they were lean. None of them had over a 25. What they found in the studies was what? The average, when they went and found gym rats who were serious lifters who all admitted to using anabolics. All of them admitted to currently being on anabolics. They found that the average steroid user had a 24.5. Okay? So having a 25.3 in terms of muscle means you're bigger than the average steroid user by 0.8 fat-free mass index, and you're bigger than all this sample size of natural professional bodybuilders. You were bigger than all of them at 190 at 10%. By normal people standards, in other words, we could look at that and say, based upon that data, it is extremely unlikely that anyone with those stats is not on steroids. We don't want to say completely impossible, just statistically extremely unlikely if you're a betting man. Extremely rare. We could argue, some people would argue it never happens, but we'll account for some outliers. So when we start talking about that, 190 is a non-obese. The obese category is like 200 plus at that height. So 190 at 10% body fat, we are still talking steroid big. That is steroid big. Objectively speaking, since all those natural professional guys at the national level were 24 up to about 24.9. It's bigger than them, and it's still bigger than the average steroid user and their sample size from the study. Okay? We need to have this context. Anyone out here really think that you're going to be at a lean body fat and be obese? Because you can plug this into everyone else who thinks I'm wrong. Go take the various heights. You can throw in 5'6", you can throw in 6'2", you can go to that BMI chart, run a fat-free mass index and see if you can get to 10% or lower body fat and still be obese. You're not going to find it on any of those charts. So what is even really realistic? We take our next exhibit. Let's take it down further. Let's take it down further. Let's go down to 180. This is 10 pounds less muscle. Fat-free mass index of 23.9, the normalized score. 23.9. Do we understand 10% body fat at 180 pounds at 5'9"? We're now in the range of national level competitive pro card natural bodybuilders. Okay? This puts you pretty much at a 24 fat-free mass index. You are big enough to compete at the national level as a natural professional bodybuilder. You have enough muscle mass to be at that level at this size. That's big. 10% body fat at 180 for the average height guy is really big. So when we're over here having these conversations at BMI, this only puts us overweight. And this is why I said, really, truly serious lifters can shift into the overweight category. But if we're obese, it's where I'm currently at, why I'm cutting, right? We're in an unhealthy range, and that applies to us as lifters. And people say, well, I'm not overly fat, but you go to get it checked, you might be 24%. Because I see guys who are like, well, they don't think their body fat's excessive, but I'm like, you might want to go get it checked. You might be surprised where you are. Doctors will generally tell you anything over 20% is going to have a negative on health markers. So yeah, you probably are, guys. You probably are really and truly obese. And you're going to see more inflammation in your body. You're going to see other problems with your health. You're still at a higher risk of insulin resistance. Body fat itself creates inflammation. Body fat itself, that inflammation leads to further cardiovascular disease. So yeah, if we're going to carry the extra muscle, sure. If you're carrying the extra muscle, you can go maybe into the overweight category and still be at optimal health. But where does that overweight put us? Well, if you go back and look at it, it's about 170 up to about 196, 197 pounds for an average height male at 5'9". You can extrapolate that chart over to your height. We have to be realistic about this stuff, guys. If you are obese, you're not natural unless you are carrying a significant amount of body fat also. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.